Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. Hello from sunny Singapore, where we're broadcasting today live. Today, we've got some exciting content requested by some of our clients, some of our friends, and we're happy to share today topics that are on everybody's minds. If leadership is working to design strategy, but strategy is being implemented by the teams, how can we get both of these parts of the business to really be working together, to really be firing on all cylinders and designing and executing meaningful growth programs? So this collaboration between teams and the C-suite and the board even is a very exciting topic to be talking about. Welcome today. Just to introduce myself, my name is David Isaac. A little bit about me is that I work on what's next strategic initiatives. I help with actionable support for the C-suite. I work with the modern CMO, the modern CPO. We do things around driving retention, monetization, building, launching, and growing new companies. At Growth Ops, we do a wide range of things, but that includes marketing, platform design, cloud. We do advertising work, we do paid media, we do customer experience design, we do executive leadership and coaching. We basically provide all the multiple support elements that allow our clients to grow and build and launch these exciting new businesses and revenue streams in their business. A little bit about my history. I've worked across M&A, I've worked across product-led growth, I've worked across validating and iterating to achieve a product market fit across various corporate venture building, go-to-market strategy projects. I've had two modest exits. And since 2014 until today, I support roughly 13 incubators and accelerators around the world. Some of my experience does include building multi-sided marketplaces, working in strategy and operations at EY Parthenon, where I was innovation co-lead. And I've also worked on corporate strategy at a mid-sized e-commerce startup. And one of the things I'm very passionate about is recycling e-waste and ensuring that laptops in corporates don't get destroyed and they're redistributed to one-room HDB, low-income housing in Singapore for deserving students. So today, what we'd like to chat about is growth as a system and how we can align product and marketing teams to customer experience and revenue. And in this system, how we can bring the board and the C-suite along on this journey and helping prioritize and sequence innovation and initiatives that actually drive revenue. We'll also talk about how growth is a team sport and how we can align teams and how we can, across those silos within an organization, de-silo, and then all those teams support the C-suite and better understand the C-suite needs so that we can drive innovation and get the time and resources that we need. And lastly, growth in the wild, what does it look like? Hindsight is 2020 and all case studies are still meaningful, even though they're a little bit delayed. But what can we learn from top quartile companies from across multiple industries? Today, actually, we've chosen to focus on some FSI examples. And something that just to kick off and get us all in the same mindset is that it's good to remember that customer experience is the product of all legacy and transformed parts of your business. So whether you're digitally transforming, whether you're transforming marketing and operations, whether you're transforming sales, whether you're transforming product in your company and changing business models, it's good to remember that there are different parts of your organization working at different speeds. And it's good to sort of align those and get an understanding of how we can get everybody on the same page and firing on all cylinders. And this is complicated because if we look at a brief history of the CMO, there was a time when brand was king. And if you were a large company and a leading company, there was very little anybody could do to catch up to you. All that was overturned when hypergrowth companies came on the scene, when digital natives came to dominate the S&P 500, and legacy companies really were feeling a hit and lacking competitiveness and growth. And then technology became ubiquitous, and even startups embarked on launching with product-led growth and innovative experiences and being very disruptive. And the incumbents as well, the ones who were disrupted by the hypergrowth startups, also started to catch up. And now we see that the phrase product-led growth, basically businesses that acquire and deliver value, and services online digitally through apps or platforms, these have of course started to rise in prominence. But today, the CMO, or in some companies, the chief product officer, the chief marketing officer, these parts of the organization, they're now tasked with growth and revenue impact, not marketing and building product anymore. This P&L responsibility is becoming very, very key in actually achieving the impact that companies are trying to achieve. And then it means that in different organizations, strategy is now being brought across the organization to these marketing and product teams as well, instead of just a strategy officer, instead of just a strategy function, instead of just on the CEO's shoulders. So this also means that there are new technology needs. And so we focus on this, and it is thinking about how we're no longer just about being good at brand and brand marketing. It's about how we can increasingly deliver revenue and drive revenue, and in this case, work with the C-suite to drive revenue. And at the board level and at the C-suite level, often we hear, please launch faster, please guarantee you're growing revenue. And that's not very easy, right? That is a big promise. Those are large shoes to fill. But with such a significant proportion of global CEOs stating that marketing can be a major driver of growth, at the same time, 23% of CEOs don't feel that marketing is delivering on that agenda. And less than 3% of board members have marketing backgrounds. So how can marketing and product teams work together? And then how can they explain, illustrate, drive budgets, and drive strategy together with the C-suite, together with the board, to understand what opportunities exist and what we can actually do to create more reliable growth? And unlike in marketing, where we've got very mature frameworks, very well-validated frameworks, and probably a framework and a methodology to help address any particular marketing challenge, in customer experience, we don't have very well developed frameworks and methodologies that are so precise that almost anybody can contribute to improving customer experience on day one. So what we have here is something that is very interesting to explore, and it's called the 3 moments. And what we have to do is to shorten the path through these 3 moments in customer experience so that we can achieve our business objectives and our growth, as well as good, efficient, effective, repeatable value exchange between the business and the customer. So the first moment that we'd like to talk about is the moment of perceiving value. And that's the moment when you see a banner ad, you see a landing page, the first time you understand that there is something differentiated, something relevant that's out there, and that, you know, as a customer, you want to explore more deeply. And then you get people into your website and your app, and then they achieve the moment of experiencing value. At least you hope that they do. And in this moment of experiencing value, this is the moment when they actually feel that this promise materialized in their life. Some people call it an aha moment, but it is the moment when they start to begin thinking that this is something that they're excited about. This is something that is meaningful in their life. It is solving their job to be done, this unmet need. Out of all the needs that they have, it's solving an unmet need that they have. And if you can get them to that point, then it's a much quicker journey to the 3rd moment, the moment of adopting value. And that's highlighted because that is the moment of retention. That is the moment when a customer becomes sticky. If you do that at scale and rapidly enough and across enough audiences, that is how your company grows. And why is that highlighted? And why is that part of co-designing growth with the C-suite? And that is because the C-suite may not understand all the tactics and all the opportunities that there is in a company, that there is in a customer journey to create stickiness and growth. Because the goals and the metrics and the objectives and the strategy come from the top of the organization, but it is the teams within the organization, the different business units, that find these moments and increase the ability of the company to create sticky customers. And then we change this diagram and we rephrase this into these 3 elements of a growth flywheel. And this is really almost like part of your business model, the front stage of your business model, the right side of your business model canvas. This is how we acquire. This is how we acquire customers within the business. This is how we engage and retain them. And this is how we then eventually monetize them. And the transitions between these 3 phases are not set in stone. They happen at different speeds within different customer segments, but most importantly, they don't happen automatically, and it is the work of multiple teams, not just marketing, to be able to drive acquisition. It is important for the customer experience to be driven by marketing and product, and in some cases even legal. It's important to bring the voice of the customer, like sales, to the understanding of what we need to do to create better customer journeys and get customers to that moment of adopting value and eventually to monetization within the organization. So I'm going to give you a little example here that will sort of illustrate what can happen in a customer journey in just one potential onboarding journey that is, representative of the entire customer experience. And it's an example from FSI, right? So we're going to go through this example in terms of customer journey, and we're going to map it to a phase in the journey and the milestones experienced in the journey. So if somebody, let's say myself, decides to go on a business trip, I buy my tickets, almost immediately there is a cookie dropped on me for as long as that continues to work, and ads will start to appear as I browse, right? So if I'm going on a business trip tomorrow, as I continue browsing, I'm going to see a banner ad pop up about travel credit cards, or I'm going to be searching on travel websites and I'm going to see banner ads programmatically being displayed, competing for my attention to be the credit card, the travel credit card that I choose. So when I finally do see this ad, right, I look at the ad and I evaluate it as a customer. Do I perceive value, right? And if I see a banner ad that has relevant benefits and has different benefits for the card I already have, that is a moment of value perception. And I choose to click on that banner ad and I go into a process of being an activated customer in a customer journey. And let's just explore this and talk about very common experiences today. You click on a credit card, a travel credit card ad, and you get to a website, and this landing page doesn't have a login for existing customers. And it's amazing. I choose to click in on this ad because it is from my existing bank. And then there's no login for existing customers. And then what happens? I go into a journey. I go in through an experience, a series of steps, as if I'm not an existing customer, as if the bank doesn't have the KYC information that they already have. And if they don't understand that I'm an existing customer, if the technology on the back end doesn't give me the opportunity to link being a stranger to being a newly acquired user from being an existing customer, then there's this moment of frustration in the customer journey. That's a friction point. And that is a moment where we have something like a potential churn, where a customer starts to consider alternatives and think, gosh, if my bank doesn't know I'm an existing customer and it makes me go through all these forms and treats me in almost a user hostile instead of a customer-centric fashion, do I want to be with this bank? Do I want this new product from this bank? And you go through a certain amount of tension. But let's say the customer still proceeds and he goes in and says, look, obviously this isn't the best experience, but I'm very loyal to this bank, and I continue. And then I go through all these forms and I submit, and then I'm waiting for the card to be delivered. And I see a message and it says, your card will be with you in 3 days, 4 days, 1 week's time. Look forward to your card and all the exciting benefits. That is a moment of failed expectations, because I'm already a card holder expecting the benefits that I've just gone through in all this marketing material. And I'm going on a trip before this card is going to get to me. And this is a digital transformation gap. This is where there are missed benefits that I want to experience. This is a missed chance for the organization to recover, because there is an opportunity for the back end to provide me those benefits with my existing card in hand or via the app instantly without me having to wait for a physical card to arrive. And what would it take to actually solve this friction in the customer experience, right? First of all, the board and the company would have to have in place a strategy where all customer journeys were understood and analyzed. And companies can have between 300 to 600 different customer journeys and key user journeys in the overall customer experience. And then you'd have to bring together so many teams. You'd have to bring together research teams, marketing teams, advertising teams, technology, middle and back office. You'd have to bring the mobile and e-banking teams, which can be different in large banks. You'd have to bring together the platform team, the CRM to do the identity matching, the web team, the product team, the UX team, all coming together to be able just to put the right login button in the right place in a new user acquisition channel that would also then be able to work for an existing customer engagement and retention and cross-selling or cross-buy customer journey. And then you'd probably have to have also teams that you never thought would be required in the marketing journey, in the front-end experiences of a company. And these would be the KYC, the legal, the credit approvals, the cards acquiring teams, again, separate teams within organizations, making this a very complex challenge to actually solve. So here's an example of what this looks like, right? When you type best travel credit card in Singapore, for example, you'll get so many ads competing for attention. This is just one example of a popular bank in Singapore. And you see that the effort of the company doesn't only begin at landing pages and owned properties that are within their organization. It starts even at the SEO level and at the SEM level, where they are starting to compete based on perceived benefits. So in this moment of perceiving value, you can see here that for best travel card in Singapore, no bank in Singapore actually owns the first organic entry on Google. So you can see it is extremely competitive and it requires a distinct, allocation of resources. There's a great quote that goes, innovation is a resource allocation challenge. That's something to think about. And this is that moment, right? So in that moment of perceiving value, if you're looking at a range of options to click into for best credit card in Singapore, this is doing a pretty good job because you can see that there are already value propositions, already benefits already in the ad in this moment. Enjoy complimentary transfer service, access to VIP lounges. So in this case of a travel credit card, these are very relevant benefits that you're bringing to the customer. And then if you go into the web page and you see here, once you've clicked into that link and you see an opportunity to log in, does this login take you to that credit card sign up point? Or does it take you to a generic part of the online banking experience? And that is the difference between a seamless journey or a journey that's interrupted and can have missed expectations and friction points and cause losses in conversion. And we'll go through what that looks like in a bit. So here we look at what digital natives are putting out into the marketplace. So this is a digital bank called Revolut. Again, none of these banks or none of these examples are clients. They're just purely anecdotal or illustrative examples to help us understand opportunities, ways of improving customer journeys, and get us thinking about how we can apply these to our own businesses. Now, this player, Revolut, very well funded, very slick language, typos here, unlike some of the other SEO placements that we saw in this thought experiment. Some of the value propositions here, some of the benefits: send, spend, save smarter, pay and get paid, hassle-free, stash cash effortlessly, no more unwanted subscriptions. What does that mean? It's very interesting. And then you see something jumping out, a radically better account. So if somebody was tempted and clicked in, this would be their landing page. And this would be the experience, the sort of seamless experience of portraying a whole bunch of very different and relevant benefits that make these digital banks somewhat disruptive and somewhat quite interesting to observe and learn from and see what we can take in for ourselves. So on this landing page above the fold, basically the very first thing that you see easy money management, travel perks and investments. And you can start, if you're already convinced, get a free account. If you're not, you continue to scroll down, right? Because this is about one app and all things money. So that's kind of interesting. And then you look at the features and they say, there's spending abroad like a local, real exchange rate. So that's kind of interesting because, everybody has a fear that when you spend, lots of people have that fear, that when you're spending abroad, are you going to be, paying multiple different additional add-on markups? And there's nothing wrong with that, right? It has to be value exchange, but is it transparent? Does it feel that the bank is on your side or that it's taking advantage of you? These are all things that we want to build into the customer experience, build in this element of trust and respect and, same team vibe. And these are the things that some of the digital natives are working very hard, in building brand loyalty and equity and retaining the customers that they already have, as well as efficiently activating and acquiring people going to the top of their funnel. And the feature that I always thought was very interesting is the lounge passes access, which is something that's interesting if you're traveling a lot. Pay and get paid, this can be very relevant to some people, might not be relevant to other people, but easy payments, that's interesting. Investments into gold and silver instantly in app, that's interesting because that's something people think about when markets are in flux and there's a potential imminent recession. And cryptocurrencies are having some pushback, and traditional equity investments are having some pushback, and high interest rates mean that bonds just don't seem to be as exciting. So maybe there is an opportunity here to invest in gold and silver. So there's something relevant here on the page. And then the opportunity to have a metal card. Metal cards, that's interesting, right? So having metal cards accessible to almost anybody, that's an interesting thing. And you start to think, gosh, I hope this isn't out of reach. I hope this is something that I can get. Gosh, I hope I can get this cool metal card from Revolut with all these fancy features. And I'm just still scrolling down a single web page. Everybody, please remember that this is just, seconds of scrolling on a page. And this feature that was quite hard to understand, it's really quite an interesting benefit. No more unwanted subscriptions. That means that any subscription that you use Revolut to subscribe with, instead of going into all these different apps and unsubscribing there, you can unsubscribe from a central place, which means that's really easy to manage your money. It's more convenient, it's more customer centric. And you can have full control. And that's a very interesting thing to bring to a customer. That feeling of full control over their money, that's a benefit that I hadn't actually, that's a need I hadn't actually thought that I needed. But once I see that it's possible, that becomes an expectation, not from being a Revolut customer or not, but from actually any credit card that I use now, from any bank. So that's an interesting place to be in society, in the world, on the internet today, that the expectations that our customers have of us mean that product market fit and business model fit are actually very slippery, because somebody can make this promise on a landing page, and suddenly any bank that can't deliver on this promise suddenly feels like it's falling short. And is that the customer experience that we want to bring? We can't do everything. So how do we prioritize for the board with our understanding of the environment around us and what everybody's doing? Can we help them understand and prioritize and sequence all the things and the features that we want to do? And then this is it, right? So I've scrolled down the page. It took me just, a few seconds to read and scroll. It was very clear. And you can see that to get a metal card, it's just $20 a month. But to enjoy Revolut, it's a freemium app. The standard plan is actually free. And you can do a lot of the features promised for free. And it's quite accessible. So they're saying, what are you waiting for? Get the only financial super app. So it's interesting. I don't know how many of you at this point think that, hey, Revolut's something interesting to explore, but let's look from this moment of perceiving value that's been done relatively successfully, I would say, how quickly they can get you to experiencing value. Are they going to make you go through a massive KYC? No, in fact, put in your phone number and they're going to send you a link and you can download the Revolut app. And in actually a very short span of time, you will have on your phone, if you fill up the forms and if you pass through the KYC, which has been done in quite a convenient fashion, you will be able to enjoy all those benefits on your phone. You can see there's a screen cap of my phone. You can have the digital card in your Apple Wallet or in your Google Pay set up long before the physical card ever gets to you. So they're actually getting you to the moment of experiencing value faster than a traditional bank can. And that is a very disruptive thing. See, so it's all about getting people through the 3 moments, getting them through this customer experience very rapidly. And how do we connect this to the board? These are concepts and user journeys and flows and satisfying unmet needs better, and things that have to come up from cross-functional teams and be floated up to the board for the board to buy into this, for it to become part of the strategy, to drive growth, and to allocate resources to build these features and these benefits into our business and our customer experience. So just remember that customer experience, when it's strong, it's really about maximizing relevance, design, and value exchange, and that creates stickiness and scale. But the board can't ideate it, and that comes, and therefore this ideation and this prioritization really comes, it floats up to the board from the teams. That's a very, empowering way of looking at driving growth in your company. And what does it look like, right? So for that customer who was experiencing friction in applying for a travel credit card and waiting 7 days before they could enjoy that benefit, when they were feeling rather, constrained for time. This is a very old example from one of our friends at Amplitude. And you look at how, you can graph different types of revenue within your business, right? What is new monthly recurring revenue? What is your expansion monthly recurring revenue? What is your churning monthly recurring revenue? And what is your net new monthly recurring revenue? And you look at this churn here in this example, of course, this is all fictitious and illustrative. You can see that for this company, their churning revenue is actually on an uptrend. Imagine being able to identify what in the customer journey was such a friction that you could add this churned revenue to your expansion revenue or your new monthly recurring revenue, and be almost, adding 50% to that growth. And this growth, this line here, would not be on a downtrend, it would be on an uptrend. And let's flesh this out a little bit better, right? When you start to look at the analytics, and this is the kind of support that the board needs, that the C-suite needs, they need to be understanding the analytics of the business, right? The product usage, the daily active usage, and DAU here in this example. And this seems like, a really great uptrend. This is the kind of DAU that we hope to see. But we need to understand this more comprehensively and break it down into actual actionable parts of the data. And if you are here, in this case, the example that they've used is very interesting. It's a music app, right? So daily active users, you can see that people are downloading the app. But then you see that song plays is very rapidly, in just 2 months, really not just tapering off, it's actually beginning to fall. And then you understand that, from having done the moment of value perception very well, and the moment of value experience pretty well, we're seeing that moment of value experience is actually not getting them to that moment of value adoption long term. They're actually beginning to churn from the key benefit within this product. And then you start to break it down further, and you hope that you don't get to the chart looking like this over time, where not only does the number of song plays dip, but the number of active users also starts to dip, and in this case, almost crashes. And what could we have done? What could we have identified? What could we have looked at to understand at the early signs here, from this point in the graph? What could we analyze to find, is it the moment of value perception? Is it the moment of value experience? Is it not being able to get them to value adoption? Where is it in the customer journey that we are somehow not resonating with our customers? And you look at it from a different point of view, right? So you look at it for advanced notice. You look at this 7-day retention graph. And starting with all the customers that we retained on day 1, right? By day 2, we have lost 60% of customers. Now, this is data that the board does not have. This is data that the C-suite doesn't have. This is data in the teams. and who is responsible for studying this data and bringing it to the board. These are very important things to think about. And if we move on to the next graph, we can start to drill down and see that it's really in day one, right, that we're having a huge churn. We're having a retention failure on day one. So what can we do to have a business that's growing and scaling when on day one, we're losing 60% of our customers? That's something in focusing, right? In the customer experience, what can we do in terms of discovery of other benefits, of other things within the business? But this right now is looking at all customers as if they're one homogeneous, straightforward group. But customers are actually made of many, many different behaviors. So what can we look at in the data? We look at behavioral data, not just this broad average data. And you look here, if we start to look at customers who have added added songs to at least 3 lists, we see that they're very different from the overall average customer data, right? We see that on a cyclical basis, they're enjoying the app. They've added enough music, enough songs to the app that they're able to enjoy the app, and they are an increasingly sticky customer. And you can see that even their 30-day retention is very significant. They're retaining at over 75% if they are adding that many songs to that many lists. And so that is user behavior in the onboarding that you then try to promote, whether you're sending EDMs, reminding them, whether you're using pop-ups, whether you're helping them find songs that they like enough to add to lists. This is all part of product design. And the great Clay Christensen, one of the inventors of the theory of disruptive innovation, one of the the leaders in jobs to be done theory, says that when you improve your product so it does the customer's job better on a single platform, then you gain market share. And I've added these few words, on a single platform, because he goes on to explain how from an MVP business, it's really important to bring more and more parts of the job to be done, so they don't need to cobble together different solutions and different products and different apps to do what they want to do, in this case, to listen to music that they like. So if we look at the funnel, trying to trying to visually, conceptually illustrate all this, we look at this very common funnel: awareness, acquisition, activation, revenue, referral, retention. Some people call it the pirate metrics, 3 A's, 3 R's. We can see that in between activation, getting a customer to do something that you want them to do so that they're sort of a part of your business, like giving you an email address, registering for an account, downloading your app. You see there's a very important point there that people focus on in terms of retention in between activation and revenue. But to get them to revenue, as we saw, there are really 3 moments, right? The moment of value perception, the moment of value experienced, and the moment of value adopted. And those moments happen multiple times within the activation phase before you get them to revenue, particularly if you're a freemium product and you are trying to acquire users at scale. And it's different if you're a network effect business, like a multi-sided marketplace, and without rapidly growing, you don't really have the opportunity to solve demand and supply at scale. But if you're not a network effect business, if you're a more traditional value exchange business, then you still have to figure out, different ways to create retention and revenue within your business through the features that you are providing to the customer, whether they're features, benefits, services, discovery, enhancing the experience so they can discover and become sticky and experience value more reliably. So retention analysis is something that's really important to bring to the C-suite. Look at those key churn points, look at journeys per segment and per product, and don't just average across your business, because that's very unhelpful. And as you saw in the previous example, if you just look at all customers as a single segment, you can't actually see what's going on. And then you look at acquisition rate relative to your churn rate. You can look at this kind of data to understand whether you do have product market fit and business model fit. You should start looking at cohort-based analysis and bringing those insights to your strategy, and then bringing your strategy to the C-suite. And you should also probably, especially in this time of potential recession, prioritizing effort based on net value and LTV rather than just growth as the ultimate North Star. So in acquisition, remember, we emphasize benefits over features, but in growth, we emphasize stickiness and scale of acquisition. And these are the kinds of insights that help the board build better strategy, help them allocate resources more efficiently, and help us all together as a team. Growth is a team sport. Figure out how to have a sticky and scalable business. And if you look at it from the C-suite's lens, right? You've got your vision and your mission, and you've got your company strategy. It is this offering strategy, this product strategy, this highlighted in this bright red color. This is where the product teams and the marketing teams and the sales teams and all the other teams have to come together to figure out actually how the product enables and delivers the strategy. Because this is a point in the business, especially in fast-changing industries, where there is a bit of a gap. There's a gap between strategy and implementation. And that gap is this product strategy or this offering strategy gap that we have to apply our effort to, so that we can better align to the mission and the company strategy and deliver a product that actually achieves the strategy. And in the voice of the CFO, right? How do we speak to the company in terms of the broader CEO's goals? And now we think of how do we speak and co-develop and co-design with the CFO, right? Because the CFOs, they have a really good handle on current performance, right? But for us, as the teams that work with the board, we have to help them understand what the performance gap is in terms of how we can achieve the targets and what we can potentially effectively do in the next 1 year, 2 years, and 3 years. We have to identify and highlight and prioritize and sequence the opportunities that we see in the environment from macro trends, from customer trends, from competitor trends. And we have to elevate that and bring that to the board. And we have to help the market be able to perceive. So in our branding, our marketing, in our product, in our strategy, in our PR, we have to understand what the market expects, both the voice of the market, the voice of the customer, and make sure that they can actually perceive what our company is doing really well. And in all of that, the market context actually dictates our current performance. Because if the market is changing, if product market fit is changing, if business model fit is changing, if customers are changing their expectations, if our competitors are significantly improving their offerings, that part of this graph changes, and it changes the overall, equation of how much remaining opportunity there is towards our full potential for the business. And we have to bring this to the board. And this is how they think, right? So if you go back to first principles, in digital transformation, in growth, in innovation, whatever you call it, special projects, entrepreneurship, internal corporate innovation, there's so many names for it, right? The CFO perspective is that to drive profitability, we either have growth, right? So pushing up revenue, or pushing down costs, right? Increasing efficiency. And in growth, there's a whole bunch of things that we do here. And these are all things that are driven by marketing, product, sales, and all the teams that enable them to actually take things to come to market. And I have highlighted here, right, taking share from competitors, because that is something that a lot of companies say is, part of one of the first things they want to do, right? Whether it's an expanding market share or market penetration, they'll say, oh, I want to take share from competitors. It's just a highlight. But in terms of efficiency, right, there are things in, lowering the things that aren't as effective. Are we in a position to raise prices? What can we do to get the market to accept higher prices? Or how do we cut costs, different types of costs, right? So these are all things that marketing and product have to come together to do, not just taking share from competitors, but all these multiple boxes. Marketing and product really have a large part to play here. And when we look at digital transformation as a whole, there are many things that we can do. So this is an example of the type of audit work that we can do, right? So in business model transformation, operations transformation, customer engagement, one of the things that GrowthUps has done in the past is putting together this comprehensive strategy and seeing how product transformation and marketing transformation can help drive growth by reaching more, connecting better, converting better, or driving future growth with digital transformation benchmarking. And this is just an example of multiple types of audits that we do for our clients. And Today I go through very high level, 30,000 foot, top level, high level detail, but we have like reliable and detailed plans for executing level 2, level 3, level 4 detailed templates that we can execute to improve marketing acquisitions or social media effectiveness or product user experience or digital business strategy. So we're back to that customer journey funnel, stickiness and scale, how they're related. We've already covered how retention in their experience is very important because it drives all the metrics for the present and for the future cohort. So if we can't solve retention, there's no point acquiring. So we have to figure out the product experience. We have to understand the 3 moments of perception, experience, and adoption. And we have to understand how to identify opportunities and how to bring these opportunities to the board to co-design better strategy by understanding the language they use and understanding the metrics that they're analyzing. And this is where it all comes together, because senior leadership has themes, they have strategies, they have goals, they have metrics, and they have priorities. But the teams that they work with, the teams that they lead, have to bring together the recommendations of strategic value. And we have to be responsible and have the ownership and have the proactivity to bring the right kind of insights portrayed in the right kinds of way to help connect these to business impact, to business model impact, hopefully around the customer experience, because that's a more reliable way of doing things, and aligning the company to the customer experience is one of the most effective ways to create change and transformation. And that's what it looks like in a nutshell. So if we're going to be working with the board, we have to understand organizational priority, we have to understand strategy, we have to be able to sequence. So we have to analyze, develop strategy, find proof of concepts that we can build rapidly and cheaply, analyze, prioritize, sequence, and then therefore get the resources that we need to scale. And this is what it looks like, in terms of, different models that at Growth Ops we can bring to help our clients prioritize roadmaps. And we're going to go through this very quickly, but North Star metrics, leading indicators, putting these into place so that different teams can have shared metrics. So the different teams are not working, on different roadmaps at different times. There are many cases in which product turns, massive 3-day hackathons to create a new feature, but marketing can't put the marketing and the publicity of that new feature into the world because they've got an existing roadmap that's already been pre-deployed. And this is just one example of when teams aren't working towards the same roadmap. So how can we make sure that we're using the same North Star metrics and the same leading indicators? Because that's how we really create mid and long-term business results. So moving on to the next section, growth is a team sport, right? How do we align teams and support the C-suite? This is the very intuitive thing that a lot of people want, right? They always want to be part of a data-driven organization. Leaders are always saying they want to be data-driven. But what level is the company at? At what level of data transformation, data maturity are we at? Are we data informed, where we have real-time data to provide operational visibility, right? So we have customer journey metrics, and we can see that there's friction in the customer journey at a certain point. We can see that something has suddenly become broken, and we can, put tech teams and user experience teams to solve a problem, right? That's that level of data informed. Then there's the level of data driven, where everybody in the organization, not just specific teams, have the ability to create insights for their team while sharing those insights across teams. And everybody is working towards that same sort of data, even though they're creating the data products and the insights separately and individually and doing much better in their own silos. Getting to the third level of data-led is when data services are so integrated into the culture of the business. They're so integrated into the meetings. There are legends of companies that go, if a PowerPoint presentation or Google Slides presentation is brought into a meeting, the meeting is stopped until a real-time dashboard is brought to the meeting, so that actual data that is not already aging is brought to inform the next steps and the next priorities and understanding what's going on. Because at this point of an organization, a data-led organization, only real-time dashboards are good enough, because only real-time dashboards are showing cause and effect. Otherwise, the lag between generating a report and revising, going through the report and actually putting the insights from that report into play can be a lifetime of 3 months, 6 months, and in some companies it never happens. So real-time dashboards, that kind of automation of decision-making with in-house data science teams that aren't overbooked and are able to produce these reports and these dashboards in real time, that is the kind of organization where you can really improve the product experience for the customer. Because with this kind of real-time marketing or real-time research or real-time customer journey data, you can understand whether it was the strategy and the idea that didn't work the way it was intended, or was it the actual execution that didn't go to plan. It is these kinds of closed data loops. If we can enable real-time tracking, we'll have a closed data loop to see if our attempt at repairing that friction had the right effect. And if we put that into play with hypothesis-based experimentation and testing, we'll be able to differentiate from strategy failure or execution failure and really iterate to create innovation that is reliable and creates better customer experiences. So in the interest of time, this is the level of analysis that we go to, right, to be able to create the insights. This is an example of a company using just-in-time marketing of this EDM that you see on the left to help a customer experience the product better by telling him that his battery is low for his video doorbell. And not only telling him that it's low, but actually in that same EDM, giving him access to the instructions to replacing that battery. So they're solving many pain points in the usage of this product and helping a customer actually engage with the product better and experience the product more effectively. And in this case, marketing is actually improving customer experience, not just acquiring a new customer, they're actually improving the life of an existing customer. It's this level of understanding of customer journeys that the board needs so that we can explain to them the future of what is possible and how to make the current experience better. And we'll just jump a little bit because we understand that you need the whole of the company to be able to create this impact. And it is very sobering to see that in the segment of leading marketers, almost 80% of them say they can deliver content based on real-time understanding. However, just 38% of marketers who are below that threshold of leading marketers say they can do the same. So we understand that the ability to understand the customer experience, to be able to understand the customer in real time, really changes the potential of these teams and therefore the business and their growth potential. So we analyze our digital operating model, right? Our digital operating model is how the different teams work together to achieve growth. If you're good, automation exists, but the data isn't able to actually tell you where you need to optimize. When we get better, automation and data are regularly bringing impact to the funnel metrics and how the customer experiences the product, going through the 3 moments, going through the growth loop to get to monetization, repurchase, resubscription, retention, whether it's short or medium or long-term retention that we're studying. But in the best companies, that data brings continual improvement and everybody has access to data that brings significant revenue impact and gets the cycles of improving revenue impact shorter and shorter and shorter. So let's look at the funnel. There are different stages of the funnel. We move customers through the funnel from awareness and acquisition to activation. So sometimes we look at opportunities to bring to the board about post-revenue dormancy. That means they've bought once, but they're not buying again. Or pre-revenue dormancy, where users have registered, but they've forgotten about the product or they're not using the product. Maybe it's because they haven't gotten to the moment of value experienced. But they're all different priorities within an organization and within a journey. But we're always trying to improve activation and engagement with habit formation. And we have to understand our customers down to the point where, when we understand the user states, we can't start with restricting a customer who's never experienced the moment of value, right? The moment of value experience. So we have to understand priorities because we can't tackle everything all at once. There's so many customer journeys and so many segments within there. And many of us have multiple products within the business. We have to understand how to prioritize and bring that prioritization and strategy to the leadership. This is an example of how marketing can improve engagement and get customers closer to adoption. So if you've registered here, if you're post-activation dormant, and Monday.com sends you an email and say, hey, you've started your sign-up process, but you haven't filled in the data, you haven't gotten any value out of the product. So they're helping you get to that moment of experiencing the value, seeing how easy it is to use their software, helping you understand with a free 14-day trial to help you get started with the product. And because it's value exchange, the company benefits by by providing you this value with you becoming increasingly locked in because you're enjoying the product. You put in a lot of data into the project management software and you become a stickier customer, and it's win-win for both. So we need to understand where to focus. We need to explain to the board and to the C-suite where customer lifetime value is more than the cost of acquisition, which is why it's so important to work with marketing and data analytics. We have to understand when customer lifetime value doesn't exceed the cost of acquisition so that we can not apply paid marketing to those kinds of customer segments, but build in some kind of virality, word of mouth, referral, user bring user programs. But we need to understand how to prioritize and grow on multiple levers of the business. And as always, strong customer experience, I repeat this, it's about maximizing relevance, design, and value exchange, and that can only be done with multiple teams working together. And here are some very quick examples. Canva will let you experience value on their homepage even before you log in, even before you sign up. You can see here, there's a button, play with Canva, and you go straight into the actual software with a demo on how to immediately start using Canva to start building, different designs. With LinkedIn, they won't let you get lost in the experience. They won't let you forget, that you're experiencing benefits. So as soon as a campaign ends, marketing and product both connect to reactivate a customer, right, before he can become dormant, and gets them to repurchase. It's an upsell. It's, hey, this worked. See how well this campaign worked. Isn't it time to extend your campaign, add more budget to that campaign? So they're really maximizing the experience and the value exchange. With Apple, there's very sophisticated product software and experience integration. And in this case, whenever you buy a new phone, they make sure that you get enough content in your email as well as in your phone. They give you tips. They explain the best new features. Even though you've already bought the phone, they haven't forgot about you. They really want you to experience the product. They really want this super high delight and retention as a part of their brand and their typical user's experience. They highlight the biggest changes. They highlight the minor changes with continual improvement in their products. And this is for somebody who's just bought the new phone. But if you haven't bought the new phone, they don't send you a how to enjoy your new phone. They've personalized that journey. Again, this kind of personalization, the board and the C-suite can't ideate and find the best opportunities in the journey to personalize. They need to help, they need our understanding that there's different onboarding journeys, different customer experience journeys. In this case, somebody who's got a phone that is now, an older phone, legal comes together, together with product and together with marketing to push these new, and finance, right? To push this new higher purchase, right? Buy now, pay later, installment plans put together. You can see in the first red box, and the second red box, a trade-in program, because that's what you need to do. You need to make it easier for somebody to buy this high price product. So this is an example of many teams improving that three-part, moment of value, perceived, experienced, and adopted cycle in the customer journey. So many teams working together. So to wrap up, growth in the wild, right? What does this look like? what can we learn from top quartile companies? Now, we've gone through these examples and these case studies, but we just want to emphasize that it's really important to combine the tools of product and marketing, bring the data insights that are the most valuable, prioritize and sequence them, bring them to the board so they can be scaled, understanding lifetime value, understanding different customer segments, and helping the whole company prioritize, with the different types of fit, whether it's product market fit, whether it's more efficiently acquiring customers through paid or new channels, whether it's changing the business model, and looking at the flywheel so that we can analyze how to maximize business impact, whether it's retention poor for which segment, how did we acquire them, can we improve retention in a cost-effective way with a new feature, with a new product, or are we acquiring the wrong customers who we cannot hope to delight? All these things are very important insights to bring to the board and for us to understand and spend our time trying to understand. So that's a wrap. So that's all our content in an hour, of course, very high level and a really quick run through, but we really hope that, you reach out, just scan this or go to this Q&A, put your questions inside. If you're on the LinkedIn Live page, drop your questions in and we'll try to answer them. I think we can stretch perhaps another 5 or 10 minutes to see if there are any questions that we can answer. And we really thank you for joining us today. And we really hope to hear from you, and, feel free to check in, one-on-one in the DMs and the private messaging, and we'll do everything we can to make sure that you get, the most out of this content. So in terms of questions that we see online, should growth be driven by product or marketing? That's a great question. Different companies, there are product-led companies, there are technology-led companies, there are patent-led companies that, purely go into licensing as their revenue model. Strategy in different companies is led by different departments. Sometimes strategy is really led by the C-suite. Sometimes strategy is really led by product. Sometimes strategy is really led by marketing. Sometimes strategy is led by strategy. But if that's the case, then product and marketing really have to be working with strategy to show what is possible, what is probable, and in what priority different types of impact can be driven. So that's a hard thing to answer. If it's the voice of the customer, who's in charge of bringing the voice of the customer and signs of friction in the customer journey, again, it can be marketing that collates all the different sources of voice of the customer in the company, from product, from sales, from marketing, from research, from primary and secondary research, from the customer service, from the customer success teams, from the hotlines that you might have. Who's in charge of collating that? Marketing is very well placed to collate and bring that information for actionable insights. In some companies, you may not have all those different teams. You might just be completely self-serve. In that case, I guess there must be a facility within the product that collates the customer experience, but there's still the marketing team, the product marketing teams that can still capture, voice of the customer to bring to guide insight and strategy. I think that's a great question. Thank you for that question. And with that, I don't see any other questions on the LinkedIn Live. I'll just give everybody another minute or two to drop any questions in the LinkedIn Live on the LinkedIn page that I believe that most of you are watching from, as opposed to the Zoom link. Okay, so just reach out, DM me, use the Q&A form here to give us your feedback or to give us some questions, and we'll try to respond to them in the newsletter or in the responses. If you leave your email, perhaps I'll try to answer those questions or set up a call and discuss with you how we can help. Connect with me, drop me your questions in the DMs. I'm very happy to connect with you and help us all figure out how to grow, companies in Southeast Asia. And yeah, we look forward. We'll try to bring as much of this content to you in an offline format. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. We're always excited to help and chat and discuss how to grow Southeast Asian businesses. Thank you, everybody, for your comments. We'll stay online for a bit longer, and we'll be in touch as soon as we can across our various channels. If you haven't already, connect with us on LinkedIn, follow Growth Ops on LinkedIn, subscribe to our newsletter. Multiple opportunities for ways for you to connect with me, to connect with Growth Ops, so that we can answer your burning questions and help you grow. Thanks, everybody.